What's up, my producer friends? It's David with another monsterproductions.com. So last week I did a video about how to make Synthwave in FL Studio using all stock FL Studio plugins and drums. And I think the video actually turned out really cool. I think I did a pretty good job with the track. And so if you missed that video or you're stumbling across this video, I'll be sure to leave a link in the description of this video if you guys want to check that out. Now there's a bass sound that I used in that track, which is very, it's sort of the iconic running bass line that you hear in a lot of Synthwave. I actually made this bass sound in GMS, which is a stock FL Studio plugin. It comes with all versions of FL Studio, and it's actually a really powerful synth. So in this video, I want to show you how I went about making that bass line, and we're going to actually dive into the sound design, and we're going to make the sound from scratch. So this is the sound that we're going to be making today. And let's get straight into it. All right, so the first thing that I want to do when I have GMS loaded up here is go where it says bank. Let's click this button here and go down to user and find default. So now we have a default preset or default layout going on here. And by default, we have 3 saw waves on all 3 oscillators. I'm going to change oscillator 1 to a square smooth waveform. And then we'll bring the pitch down 12 semitones, which is an octave. So that's what it should sound like so far. And the next thing that I want to do is move on to where it says phase here. And we're just going to click both of these buttons there. So we'll just leave that as is for now and move on to unisono. And where it says voices, let's move this up to 2. So now you can hear the 2 voices going on there. Let's move the stereo up just a little bit, like probably like 10% or something. And then where it says detune, let's bring this down. So anywhere between 15 and 20% is probably good. I'll go to like 17. So the voices are not quite as spread out now. And then under the keyboard section here, let's go down 1 more octave, and then we can click mono voice as well. So that's sort of the tone of the bass sound that we're going for here. And it sounds really cool just like that. But what my goal was with this was to use an LFO to basically modulate that bass sound so that it's got that running bass sound effect that we're going for. So let's move on to our filter section here and bring the cutoff down to about 33%. Keep it on low pass filter. Let's go to our envelope and we can bring the decay down to about 66%. And then we can bring the amount up. I think I had it like 27%. So this is what we should have so far. So now it's basically just that fundamental bass tone with a couple extra harmonics on there. And what I'm going to do is actually go to the envelope 2 here, and we're going to do it again. We're going to add a little bit more of these harmonics in there. So I think I was at about 30%, and then bring this up to about 70%. So now we have a nice little bass pluck sound. And you can mess with these more to kind of add more harmonics in it or find the sound that you're going for. Let's leave it at 70% for now. And now let's move on to our LFO section. So this is where we're going to get that running bass sound. So let's move the rate up to 1 to 4 and then click beat. This is going to link it to the tempo of the track. And I had the tempo of the track at 90 BPM. Where it says amount here, I'm going to bring this up. Let's bring it all the way up to about 80%. So now we have a little bit of LFO movement going on there. But what I want to do is actually make this LFO a sawtooth wave. So now you can kind of see the wave shape. This is what it's going to sound like. But let's make sure we hit the re-trigger button. And this is going to make sure that every time I trigger the note, it's going to start at the top of that peak there. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, I actually want to add another LFO, so let's go to LFO 2, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to 1 to 4, click beat, bring the amount all the way up to 100%, and then we're going to click level here. So now it's linked to the volume of the global volume of the plugin. And then again, we're going to click this sawtooth wave and hit re-trigger. So my goal with this was just to give it a little bit more movement and have it just a little bit harder sound there. All right, so let's move on to this section here and mess with the attack, decay, sustain, and release just a little bit. So I'm going to bring the decay down to about 90%, sustain to about 50%, and then release, we're going to go to 0. Okay, and then let's move on to our effects section. So let's add a little bit of distortion on this, and it's highlighted right now, so I just have to click glue to enable it, and then we can go around on this target here and find where we like it. That's pretty good, and we can always change it a little bit later if we want, but you may notice that we have a pretty strong fundamental like sub bass tone right there, and it's got more sub in this bass sound than I want because there's not usually a whole lot of sub in synthwave in general. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my high pass filter here, and we'll click glue, and we'll kind of get rid of some of those frequencies. So I'm not doing too much with it before, after, just a little bit. And then what I'm going to do to get rid of the rest of those, click this button here where it says MIDI EQ, and now we're in our EQ section. I can click enable, and I'll bring down the low a little bit more. So we'll go to like negative 1.5 decibels. So I mean, it's in there, but it's not like peaking above this one. This is kind of like the higher peak now, which is good. All right, so I can add a little bit of semi in here, semi, whatever, some middle, a little bit of treble, and we'll just add some highs in there for kicks. Cool. I think that's pretty close to the sound that I had created. And if you guys want, you could potentially experiment and bring in some saw wave along with it. So you could bring this up on oscillator 3 or 2. Just beef up the sound a little bit more. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification. That's going to let you know anytime I release videos in the future. And right now I'm putting out a lot of FL Studio related videos and also a lot of like sound design videos. Right now I've been doing a lot of GMS, but soon I really want to do probably Citrus next, because Citrus is another really powerful synth that comes with pretty much all versions of FL Studio. I don't think it comes with the Fruity Edition, but all the rest of them it does. So keep an eye out for all that, and I will see you in the next video.